What's going on, folks? Your boy again, Dr. Sean Thomas, back in the building with the Be More Today show. We are back. We are back. We are back in the building, folks. Episode 150 is a big one. It's a big one. I am super hyped for this show today. But before I get into it, as always, know this: Be More Today is a movement. We're now in season number 5, and the show has been great. It's been so great connecting with amazing people, doing amazing things in the world of health and fitness. And your love and support for the show has been tremendous. We're now heard in 82 countries, over 62,000 downloads. Again, without you, there'd be no show. So I support you as you support me. I salute you as you salute me. And I thank you for being a part of the Be More Today family. As always, Be More Today is on Instagram and Facebook. BeMoreToday.com is the website for our more merch and for anything that you need or want to be more today in terms of fitness and inspiration for great things in terms of health and wellness. I'm your guy for that. Our quote for today is simple as always. Are you interested or are you committed? If you're interested, you'll do what is convenient. But if you're committed, you'll do what it takes to make it happen. This year, folks, I was lucky enough to run the London Marathon, and I had a great experience in London. I haven't really talked about the London trip because I was waiting for this show. And I love my time out there, my first time being out there. Ran my second fastest marathon. It wasn't the perfect race. I had a lot of things that I messed up on, from my nutrition to waking up a little later than expected, shoes I hadn't really worn before and wasn't really excited about. But I got through this race, ran my second fastest time, and it was great. And I was committed to the training, committed to the run, not just interested, but really committed to getting this thing done. And I was lucky enough to run with a friend of mine who also ran London Marathon. And folks, I had her on the show last April, and she rocked out so much that she was the first U.S. female finisher in the London Marathon, running a time of 2:44:57. Hot, hot, hot. And her name is Melissa Perlman. Now, folks, you've had her on the show before. You know her. She's amazing. Been recognized twice by PR Week, the world's leading PR and communication publication, as a top 15 PR professional to watch nationally. In 2021, she was named to the South Florida Business Journal's esteemed 40 under 40 list, also celebrated by South Florida Business and Wealth magazine as of 2017 up and comer. Vocal Life magazine as one of the publications 2014 40 and under. She's the South Florida Sun Centennial as part of the publication's 2012 Top Workplaces Awards. She's done so many things, folks. President of the Gold Coast Public Relations Council, South Florida's largest independent group of PR, marketing, and communications professionals. She's a voting board member for Maccabi USA, and a federally recognized not-for-profit organization with extensively historically enriching professionals. She's a voting board member for Maccabi, and she's done so many things, Lord, in terms of pushing forward the message she wants to share with the world. As a commissioner for Maccabi, she's also on the endurance team. And for the World Games in Israel, she's done so many things as an executive member of Friends of Brown Track and Field. And she's done so many things for the community when it comes to giving back. A former Florida State champion, a Division I athlete, a former Brown University athlete who I ran with, and so proud to have her on the show again. She's been running competitively for a number of years now, since '96, and represented Team USA in the World Maccabi Games, in Israel 4 times, in Europe twice, and recently, this past winter, in Argentina. And she's medaled every single time. Today, Melissa is here as a competitive marathon runner and does so many things. Again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pets included, please welcome to the stage my friend, a rock star amongst many, and her second time on the Be More Today show, our top finisher for the U.S. for London, Melissa Perlman. Melissa, what is going on?
Hello, hello. Thank you. Thanks for the intro. And super excited to be back.
Listen, you're a rock star. I haven't actually seen your face since London. I know we were both in London at the same time. A lot of things were happening when we both finished the race. You finished clearly before I did. But um, I was trying to reach out to you and connect with you. And when I saw your time, I was just blown away, because I was like, yo, a year ago, we talked about you hitting these landmarks and hitting these goals. And I just been watching you put in work and work and work on your Strava, on social media. You've been just grinding. and it paid off. It paid off so well. There were 53,000 runners who ran this past April in London, and you were the 18th overall female, seventh in your age group, and the top US female finisher. Girl, how are you
Yeah.
feeling? What is going on? What?
Yeah, that was the top US finisher piece was a huge surprise. I wasn't expecting that. That was when people pointed that out after, I was like, whoa. Did not expect that to happen. No, it's so funny that you bring up what we had discussed a year before, because I had come on, I think before Boston 2023, and I said, my goal is to break 2 hours and 45 minutes. Like, that's what I want to do. And I had a 2:49 PR before that. So it was, a big ask of 4 minutes and change. But I thought I could do it. I was confident. And then I didn't do it. And I ran a 2:49 in Boston that time. And then fast forward a couple of months, and I ran Chicago and CIM last year. So a lot of marathons in 2023. And in both of those, I ran 2:46s. 2:46 high, then got it a little bit lower, and I couldn't get that sub 2:45. That was so, there's numbers that everyone, whether it's breaking 5 hours or 4 hours or 3 hours, and then 2:45 is a big number that people want to do. And now that I did it in London, it was just so apparent looking back that my body wasn't ready for it then. I was willing myself to do it. I was trying so hard in the races, and it's amazing that when your body is ready to do it, I'm not going to say it wasn't hard, but it wasn't so forced. It just sort of, it happens. And it took a lot of work in between, but a couple of cycles of marathons. It was, 3 more marathons in between it took, but it can happen. You can do it. It just may take a little bit more time than you initially expect, and that's okay. And it made it all mean a little bit more, that it was such a trying effort leading up to it, and I wanted it. I wanted it so much for so long, and believed I could do it. It was like I was expecting it. I was expecting it in Boston. I was expecting it in Chicago, CIM, and then it wasn't happening. And then it did. So I think it's really telling that sometimes, you may want something and believe you can do it, and you can, but your body has to line up and be ready for it as well. So it was a good lesson. But London, yeah, London was great. London was great.
Yeah, that's a big time statement. I think a lot of people get so fixated on, well, I'm doing the training. I'm doing the training. So when I go out there, I'm going to run this time and that's it. Right. Even myself, right. So I ran Berlin, I ran my 3:42 and I was hyped. I said, yo, I'm going to do that same thing again next year. And I pretty much did, for the most part, the same training. But even during the training, I found myself, I didn't have the same motivation. My body didn't feel exactly the same. I did most of the same workouts, not as intently as before, but pretty similarly, and expected a similar result. And I didn't get that same result. I ran, 8 minutes slower, for a
Yeah.
number of different reasons: nutrition that day, the shoes I was wearing, whatever else. And I found myself, for a moment, I found myself unhappy that my result wasn't what I expected it to be. But I thought to myself, calm down. You finished the
Yeah.
marathon. You're in the
Yep.
1% of people. You got out
Yep.
here, you did great. You're in London. Like, relax your tax, right? You
Yep.
did a great job. And I think a lot of us get caught up in that same thing where we expect and want that thing to be, well, I put in the training, so let me get that result. Let me get that PR. And it doesn't happen. It might not happen. But like you said, when it's time, it does happen. And I'm curious for you, what pushed you still? Because yeah, I remember talking to you a year ago and you doing all the training, and for you to run, like you said, a number of marathons to get to London to actually break that 2:45 barrier. What was going through your mind still to say, you know what, keep pushing, keep training, don't stop? Because many people can say, you know what, well, maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe 2:45 is my max. Maybe that's where I'm just going to be, and it is what it is. What
Yep.
kept you going to say that I'm going to actually get past this thing relentlessly?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I mean, one part of it is that I have this belief in myself that I just, even though it wasn't happening for a while, and effort after effort, I just knew it was in me. I knew I could run that sub 245, and I believed in myself. And it's like the Des Linden famous line that you just keep showing up.
Mm.
And that's how I looked at it. Just keep showing up, and none of the training disappears. Just like your efforts that you're talking about, the cycle and the training and the work that you did doesn't disappear. My 246s over and over again, my 249s over. That's all in me. It's still there, and it may take a couple of more steps to reach that time that we're seeking. This like random time when you think about it in the scheme of things.
Right.
Uh, and I had this deep belief that like I can do it, and I have, additional goals that I believe that I can get to. And I just knew I was going to keep putting my head down and doing the work and keep showing up at that race and putting in 100% effort. And when my body was ready to do what I knew it could do, it was going to deliver.
Mm.
And there's a runner guy that I follow. He's a really good writer, Peter Bromka, who says the marathon doesn't owe you anything. You can put in all the effort, all the work, everything, and then you show up and it doesn't owe you anything. And I just think of that all the time, that I just have to keep putting my head down, keep doing the work, showing up, giving my best on that day, giving everything I can that day, and believing that it will happen. And I usually, knock on wood, do pretty well in races consistently, improving over the years and getting out of myself what I work towards. And sometimes it's enough, and sometimes it's, a little bit short, but I just believed and just kept on piling on the cycles of marathon efforts, and it happened. And the best part about it is that I know I'm not done. I
Mm.
know that this isn't it. So I know that there's more. So, it's going to continue. It's not like it was like, okay, sub 245, done, check.
Yeah.
Like I have big goals that are going to continue. And I just have to do more work and keep piling it on and see what the next one is. And know it's kind of freeing in a way that I had so many of those, efforts that I didn't get it, that sub 245, and then I did, because it takes the pressure off the next time I run, where I'm like, okay, I don't have to immediately get this big goal time that I have. I can break it down a little bit. And as long as, always celebrate a PR, as long as I'm getting down a little bit towards it and,
Mhm.
knocking off some time, some seconds, learning different things about myself, about racing, having breakthroughs, whether it's time or not,
Yeah.
um, then that's a win. And it will get me towards where I want to go.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So I ran 342 in Berlin, and before that, I'd only run a 357. So
That's
that was
huge.
a big PR
Huge.
for me. So I felt the same way as you, in the sense that I was like, well, it's gonna be better than the 357. No matter what I do, it's gonna be better than that. And I felt that way during the race, even when I was doing it. And it wasn't an ideal race, but still, I felt like, there's room here for me to at least grow and learn from this experience, because I knew that what it felt like in Berlin was gonna be a little different than here. But yeah, like you're saying, there's still more in the tank. And I
Yeah.
think that is the thing that I love about you so much. Because I knew once you ran that, I was like, she's gonna think, yo, now that that's done, what's next? One done is done, right? But now that I know I can do this, now we're talking about 340 or 240, whatever else. And that's what I love about your journey, because like you said, you're just putting on cycles. You're just reproducing cycles. And
Mhm.
when the time is right, the time is right. And I was
Yeah.
looking at your page. You said on your page a number of things that were helpful in your training. You talked about 9 hours of sleep every night. You talked about
Get
your
a little-
your massages. Yeah. And then you talked about your chiropractor who's been helping you out. So talk to us about how those things also got you through the secrets of the success for this 244.57.
Yeah, this sleep thing, I got some hard. I posted and I got some blowback from some friends with like kids and and so on, that are like, wait a second, 9 to 10 hours? Like, what is this? Who are you?
Right.
I am, yes, sleep is important. It always has been. I've always been like an 8-hour person. And with marathon training, it's just gone up a little bit, where it is consistently 9.5, 10
Mm,
hours. There's some days that it's not when I have to wake up. I live in Florida, South Florida, so it's super hot. And sometimes I have to wake up really early for my long runs. So
right.
yeah, bed at 6 p.m. at night. So it will adjust. But on the average, it's yeah, that 9+ hours a night. And I think that's super important. And it's just the recovery wise. And it goes back to that and the massages regularly. And as you said, visiting my sports chiropractor and, making sure that things are checked on the minute I feel them. I don't
Mm,
wait, oh, I'll see how this will work.
mm,
If I feel something in a muscle and I'm like, oh, it's a little tight, I've learned that if I can get in and see him and he can, whether it's a massage or shock wave or, ultrasound, whatever it is, it will help it. It will shorten it. It will go away. It won't become a bigger item. It just keeps things small. So they're not like big issues or injuries and so on. And it just keeps me aware of my body and how it's working. And it all comes down to, I joke about with my coach about this, is that I train like a professional. I'm not a professional runner. I have a regular job and a regular life, but that doesn't mean I can't train and treat my body like a professional. I'm expecting a lot of it. I
mhm,
want big results for me at my level, and I need to treat it that way. So if I'm going to be, putting a lot of mileage on and pounding, the streets and lifting and doing all these things, I need to treat it like it deserves to be treated. So I just make the time for those things and I make it a priority. Um, if you were a professional runner, they run, twice a day, they nap it, they joke around, they nap in between, they're getting their treatments, multiple times a week. I may not be getting like 4 massages a week and going to, getting treatments that often, but when my body needs it, I make sure that it's getting it because you can't expect it to deliver if you're not treating it
mm,
as good as it should be.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And you know, I need to get more sleep myself. I always talk about sleep on the show. I have forced myself since London training ended to get more sleep during this like little lull. We're trying to get into Tokyo for next year, and that would be my next marathon cycle. So I know this is a time of like, okay, we're getting ready to probably do another cycle soon. Let me get my rest in now and get used to that. But that's hard, like you said, it is hard for many. But I will say, as you said, if you really want something, you're gonna do whatever it takes to get that thing done. And it does mean maybe sometimes going to sleep a little earlier, and adjusting your schedule to do such things. And a number of people have also asked, even me, well, how do you do your training schedule? What do you do? And I go to sleep at 9. It's not 6, but for me that's early.
Yeah.
9:30, right? And even that, people are like, what do you mean 9:30? What are you talking about? And I try to do that because I know the next day I have to get up and do, whatever run I have to do. But yeah, those sacrifices we have to make just to make the schedules change for greatness to actually happen. And looking at your Strava, which I've been doing a couple of times, you're logging a lot of miles per month, right? Sometimes you're logging like 300 miles a month.
Yeah.
And for most marathon programs that Nike in Chicago and wherever else, TSA, I mean TCS, they'll have different programs you can go on and you can follow. They're very stock, right? But they're basic programs, and for most of those programs, you'll see for most running, it's like 20 miles a week, 30 miles a week that you're stacking upon. But you're talking about not like 120 miles a month, you're talking about 300 miles a month you're putting in. And a lot of the things we see on Instagram or whatever else is talking about the difference between putting in all the mileages, doing slow recovery runs,
Mhm.
all these different things about what's best to make sure you're seeing results. What are your thoughts on all these things? I know your training is very specific because you said you train like a professional. You're training because you want to be the best that you can be.
Mhm.
And I'm just curious what mindset or what mantra you go by in terms of your training. Are you someone who is like, yeah, the miles have to be done, we have to get these miles in regardless? Are you someone who's more like, you know what, we can do like slower runs and break that thing up. What's your training style like for your success?
Well, I will credit, I have a coach, and she's the same coach I've had since 2017. So before I ran that first marathon. And for me, when I first started working with her, I'm I'm a good student in a way. Like I wanted the A plus. And for me, that worked really well because she put, a schedule together of what I needed to do and what I needed to get done. And I couldn't go to sleep that night unless was able to check it off on her, assignment list of what to do. And for me, in the beginning, that was a really good way of making sure I got it in. And I remember in 2018, probably when I was training for my first marathon, there were some nights that it was like 9 p.m. and I was like, oh my God, I haven't done my run yet. And I would get on the treadmill, and because I didn't want to, fail in her eyes. I didn't want to tell her, the next day I didn't get my run in. Like I just
Mhm.
couldn't do it. And I know I'm paying her to coach me. And I know it's like all for me as an adult. I'm not a child. But in my head, that kept me in line. Now, as the years have passed, I no longer need that. Yes, she gives me my assignment. It's more for me. And I'm like, no, 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 I have to get it in. And this is what I said I was going to do, and so on. So it's easy for me that I don't write my own training, that I just follow something and I check it off. I don't have to think about it. I don't like do extra miles just because I feel like it, or less miles. And it keeps it really simple, which is nice. And for me, that's good. Um, in terms of mileage, yeah, I think my highest mileage month leading up to London was just over 330 miles, which is like 70, 75 a week. And that's on 6 days because I always take off Monday as an off day from running. Sometimes I'll lift on Monday, but never run on Mondays. So that I had a lot of, I think I was looking at it 11 weeks of 70 plus miles leading up to London. Wasn't as high as I think Chicago the year before. I think I hit 80 once or twice. It just never got up to that because everything that I do, it's not like, hey, we want you to hit 80 miles or 90 miles, because it would be fun to say I ran 90 miles this week.
Right.
Um, but it has to be within the overall plan. You can't just
Mhm.
jump up to 90 miles if you've only been doing 30 miles.
Right.
So I think importantly with the miles is that if you're increasing, they just have to be consistently increasing. And even though my mileage is, on average 70 miles a week, it wasn't that in 2018 when I ran my first one. I think it was in the 50s or, 40s.
Mhm.
And then each cycle, she's upped it a little bit. So it's consistently gone up like 5 miles each cycle kind of thing, so that it hasn't felt like a huge undertaking.
Mhm.
Now if you listen to like professionals of what they're running, yeah, they're all like 100 miles plus. Like some of them run, some of the really good US marathoners, females, are 130 miles a week. Now I don't think I'll ever get to that. That's like becomes really like a full-time job of running.
Right.
um but the 70, I can see it going up to like 80 in the coming years or something like that. It still feels good. I'm tired during marathon training. That's probably why I need all that sleep too.
Right.
Um, Definitely, you're just, you live a little bit more tired, which is okay. I mean, it works. I think you need mileage. I mean, unless there's exceptions all over the place, but I think you do need mileage to really get your time down, because it's just building a base. It's getting your body used to it, where, the 26 miles that you're running, 26.2 during the race, doesn't feel like a ton because, usually it's not like you're running that daily, but, after coming down on mileage, you feel great for racing,
Right.
and it just builds in. Now, in terms of paces, I have noticed the higher my mileage goes, the slower my paces on like easy runs. And that's something that's pretty normal for even, professionals. And Kipchoge says that he runs his, easy runs at like 7 minutes high, 8 minutes. And, he races in the fours. So it's
Right.
kind of that. So I don't feel so bad when I'm like, oh, my legs are like, high 830s or something for easy runs. But I will say personally, I think a mistake that people make is that they only do slow, easy runs. And, oh, I have 20 miles this week or 30 miles this week or whatever it is. And all of them are slow, easy miles. I
Mhm.
think in my weekly schedule, I have one workout day a week. So I don't have two. Like a lot of people do two workout days. She's changed it to just one to give my body, more time to recover. I'm 42 years old, so I probably need it. And I'm pretty tired after that workout and then going into the long run. So my week is really easy runs, one workout, which is Wednesday a week. Sometimes it's a two a day. Sometimes she'll give me double thresholds or that kind of thing, but it's only that one day. And then I have a long run. And sometimes the long run has some built-in speed or tempo pace or threshold pace. But I there on my easy run days, she does have me do strides, like pickups, 20-second pickups. And I've told people that before, that I think that's an important aspect, especially as we get older, just to make sure you're touching on that speed, because our slow twitch muscles as marathoners want to probably take over. So it's nice to just touch on that fast twitch speed, even if it's just like, 4, 5, 6, 20-second repeats, just to get the mechanics going, just to practice getting your knees up. Because I think that we just get so used to running slow and easy and think, oh, I'm a marathoner. This is all I need to do.
Mhm.
And you just have to test out those legs a little bit. The other reason I think it's important with whatever program you're doing to have like a hard day, a hard workout day, is the mental part of it. It's a challenge. Like I actually fear not all of them, but a lot of times I'm like nervous, scared going into my Wednesday workouts. Like the rest of the week, it's like, it's like an easy 8 miler, an easy 10 miler, 6 mile, whatever it is. Like those are like, I can do those all the time. Even my long run, I don't really get scared of it anymore because I know I can do it. I
Mhm.
know I'm going to go a pace that's like, controllable. But when I have to hit paces, that's a little scary. And it reminds me of like my college days of workouts. I mean, I'm sure it reminds, that would remind you where you get a little,
Yeah.
nerve butterflies in the stomach. And I was talking to a guy I run with the other day about this, that I think that's an important challenge for us because you need to challenge yourself because that's how it's going to feel on race day.
Yeah.
You're a little nervous. And if you don't get used to that, you just get too comfortable in your training. And I think it's like healthy, at least for me, really healthy to challenge and to scare myself a little bit, and you'll surprise yourself with times, and that's when it really hurts sometimes, but that's what's making you better because as you're fighting a little bit of father time as we get older. And if you don't challenge yourself to these faster paces, to hitting these tempo paces for 4 miles straight, 5 miles straight, whatever it is, you're not to expect that you're going to be able to rise to the challenge in the race and hit paces and times. It's not fair to your body or your mind to not prepare it for it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I found myself somewhat in a rut this year because I ran with a running group that is a local running group over here, Best Side Flyers, and did a lot of speed work with them on Tuesday mornings all last year. And I felt my fastest for that Berlin Marathon. And I didn't run with them as much this year for London, just schedule wise. I wasn't able to get there for the speed runs with them. And I found myself feeling a little slower in that regard. And I know that push, when you have people who are faster, you can push you to get to those times. I didn't
Yeah.
have that during this last marathon training session. I was trying to figure out why did I feel so different. It's because of that. I didn't really
Yeah.
have that push. I was doing it on my own, but to have that push to really go and have that same feeling you're talking about, I didn't have that ingrained in my normal routine for this last cycle. And as I went back with them last week, I felt it again. I was like, oh, I should have
Yeah.
been here. I should have been here more during that
Yeah.
that training cycle. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah. And one of the big things I changed related to that of running with people, I mean, I train alone um a lot, like 5 out of 6 of the 6 days. Before, when we talked last year before Boston, I was training alone 6 days a week. The one thing I did change, and I changed this right before Chicago, so in, I think it was August, that I showed up for a run with this Sunday morning group that runs in East Boca. I've known them. They've been like asking me to return because I ran with them years ago. And I always had an excuse of them. It's so early. They meet at 5 a.m. for their 20, for if you're going 20 miles, and they meet at 6 a.m. if they loop back, and they meet at 6 a.m. for 13 miles for a loop. And I was like, oh, and then I have to leave my house and it takes 30 minutes to get there and blah, blah, blah. And I hate waking up super early. And
Right.
I had all of these reasons to not do it. And when I was training for, I think it was before Boston and just right after, I was fine up until 13, 14 miles on my own. I can do that any day of the week. I have my Audible, I have my podcast.
Right.
I'm
Right.
do it. It's not a problem. When it got above that 15 to 21 miles in the heat of Florida, I was just tired. And I noticed it wasn't even like tiredness of my legs. It was almost mentally. I was just like tired of being out there. Like the 3 hours, like plus, like it was just long.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be done for that last like 40 minutes. So I decided in that August, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out with them, see how it is. And I started going every week, and I've gone every Sunday, unless I'm out of town or, it was a break,
Mm-hmm.
every Sunday since. I've either gone for the 5 a.m. or the 6 a.m., depending on what's on my schedule. And I think that made a huge difference from my 249 in Boston to my 246 in Chicago, 246 in CIM, and now 244, because I was finishing 20 milers, 21 milers, chatting away, and it was fine. I didn't think about being bored. I was
Right.
entertained. I was running consistently through, and it just made those long distances like just easy. I got them done. Like no matter what time or pace I was doing it in, I didn't care if it was like a little bit slower, that what I would do on my own even. That we stopped for water a couple of times, like more than I normally do on my own. It got those full miles in, especially at the end when it gets hard, and
Yeah.
just like done. And
Yeah.
it just made the long run the easiest part of my week,
Yeah.
where it
Yeah.
used to be.
Yeah. That's a valid point. I think that more people should be doing that kind of stuff. I think
Yeah,
I mean, running by itself is very insular, right? Because you can do it by yourself, but I do think community makes a huge difference. Um,
totally agree. And I learned that as someone who loves running by themselves and, fits it in and so on. And I I really believe, and I tell the guys all the time, that I really believe that was a huge impact with these times, that it just made that long run just a check off. I didn't have to think about it or
yeah.
worry about it. Now it's only my hard workouts that I get concerned about.
Right.
The long,
Right.
they're just easy peasy because I don't have to worry. I know if I show up, I'm going to get it done. No question about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Mel, I know, the running, thank you for clarifying on the running tip and sharing some light on the distances and how important it is to get those runs in. But I know nutrition is also something that is always a hot topic, right? Especially for runners, new runners, and seasoned runners who are out there. Not just what you're eating every single day, but also what you're fueling with during the races. And I know you have a coach, and she's been great, and you have a chiropractor who takes care of you. Do you also have a nutritionist that guides you on what you should be eating? And if so, what are some of the guidelines for what you're eating daily? What are some of the guidelines for how you're fueling for races? How's that work for you?
Yeah, I do not have a nutritionist. I probably should. I think the more coaches in your life for all these things are
Yeah.
better. I'm a fan of that. I The nutrition piece is something that is so critical. And if you're a marathoner or running these distances, you will learn quickly how critical it is. And if you haven't yet, you'll learn, because I keep learning. I've learned, I keep making changes and tweaks and figuring out what's better and what works more. Some of the things, I think since 2019, I started practicing, and I think I brought this up last time, a little bit with more plant based. So I've done that over the past couple of years, really since 2019, on and off. Not completely, I still eat fish. And then I make sure that I have red meat once a week for my iron levels. I take iron pills, but sometimes I just need that red meat I can feel it where I need it. But other than that, try to be plant-based. For me, that works. It helps me stay lean. I've noticed it makes it easier. I love salads and vegetables, so it's not really that challenging for me. I just have to make sure I get enough protein in, whether it's through tofu or beans or protein shakes or fish or whatever it is. So that's like my daily. The things that have changed over the last year, I would even say, is more of a focus on carbs. I think a lot of, especially women, have a fear of carbs. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to gain weight.
Right.
And then some people, and I don't mean like just shoveling in carbs all the time, because you do have to be careful about that if you're trying to be lean for racing and so on, but quality carbs and making sure I'm getting them at each of my meals. I think that's one of the things I've realized, especially for my longer runs and hard workouts. These, 8 miles, yeah, I can take a bar in the morning and I'm good. And the night before, whatever I had for dinner was fine. When I have long runs or hard workouts that are, 14, 15-mile hard workouts plus, I have to make a conscious effort of making sure that I get a solid meal the night before, the day before, and the morning of. So I will have overnight oats, which is what I eat before my races as well. So I have that before all my long runs because I want to get used to it. And so that's the norm thing. And that's what I do before my races. But the night before, making sure I have a lot of rice, along with my meal of whatever I'm eating, and really start, making sure I have enough carbs and nutrition in me, because you can't fake it. The marathon, you can't fake it in races, you can't fake it in training. It will show up, you'll feel it, your body will tell you. And I think that's like the biggest, and I think it's a good quality lesson that my body teaches me all the time. Now, before races, the last couple of times, like I pay attention to some nutritionists online about carbo loading, and I try to do that. I think I started that in Chicago, where I was following Heather Featherstone, and she was talking about how you should get, X number of carbs the days before, if you weigh this and so on. And I started doing that. And like, so I started, it was so funny. I remember getting to Chicago and I like went to a pita place and just got like a pita, and I was making sure I had it in the room and rice in the room. And I'd never done that before. And just like snacking all day, they talk about graham crackers and that's not really my thing, but rice and bread and bagels. And I mean, I don't even know the last time that I was doing that, like where I was just snacking all day on carbs. And I did that leading up to Chicago the 3 days before, and just like over consumed them. Not, not too much, but to make sure I was filling whatever, whatever tank needed to be filled.
Right.
And worked. And I've been doing that since then, of just making like an effort of carbo loading before those races, like the 3 days before, getting in a ton. And then, the morning of, I have my overnight oats and then a banana typically, and bringing food with me because you're, especially if you're going on like a bus to some of these starts or a train or whatever it is, bringing the bagel with peanut butter and the bar, and making, not filling myself where I feel stuffed, but making sure I have a lot of calories in me to use. And then during the race, I've built up my stomach to be able to handle a gel. I use UCAN. I like them. And I use a gel every 5K, which is like every 20 minutes. I mean, that's a lot of gels.
Yeah.
For me, I personally like UCAN because they remind me of like having a smoothie that you forgot to put sugar in. Like it's not a sweet smoothie. So it's not hard to take down, where it's like I just take it, it's easy. I train with those, so I'm used to it. The only thing I'm still trying to figure out, and it proves that we're all figuring out things, is the caffeine situation. So can does not have caffeine in it. So in London, I brought caffeine pills, and literally at mile 20, I was fishing out caffeine pills that I had in like a Ziploc to take one. And again, we're not professionals, so we haven't always practiced. So I'm
Right.
like chewing it, thinking it's going to be like a melatonin, like that you just chew. And I think I was supposed to swallow it because I was like coughed out trying. I'm like, oh, this wasn't right. Anyway, so I'm still trying to figure that out. I think I may have to bring like another, whether it's a Morden or I don't know, goo or something, one
Yeah.
with caffeine. I do
Yeah.
think I need that for my last 10K.
Mm,
I drink a lot of coffee on normal days, so my body probably craves that.
right.
Uh, but other than that, yeah, and it's been good. And that's the more you can take in, it's like the more calories you can get in, because you're pulling so much energy from your body, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I tell my runners also every 5K or so, it should be taking some
Yeah.
kind of something. And that's what I've been doing. And I've like you have learned trial and error what
Yeah.
works, what doesn't work. From the Martin to the Cis, I love Cis right now. Cis has been really good for me. I've
Oh,
tried caffeinated gels, and I don't drink coffee in general,
uh,
so those
yeah.
throw me off. And I remember when I ran NYC and I was feeling so good, and I took a gel that someone gave at one of the miles, maybe like mile 13 or 14, not realizing it had caffeine in it.
Huh?
And all of a sudden, my body just shut down. It was like, when you start cramping in weird places that you don't usually cramp, like
Yeah.
my toes were cramping, and then like my fingers were cramping. I was like, what's going on? And I realized that the one I had taken had caffeine, but I didn't even realize before that, because I was getting my gels in the dark, which again, plan ahead, folks who are listening, plan ahead what you're gonna be putting in your spy belt, if you will. Shout
Yeah.
out to Spy Belt, our ambassador. Um, I packed the gel that also had caffeine in it, and I didn't realize that 'cause we had an assorted bunch. So I had already taken one that had caffeine in it, and I had another one on the
Ooh,
course. So
but
all
a
of a
lot of
sudden,
cat.
my body is like, "You don't like me anymore. I hate you," and I shut down. It was so bad. But yeah, like you said, knowing what works for you and still just trying to figure that thing out, I
Yeah.
think that's definitely the key. That's
Yeah.
definitely
And practicing, learn from our errors.
yes.
Practice ahead of the time. Too
Now,
funny.
now you mentioned so many things about 9 hours of sleep, getting the massages in, seeing your chiropractor when things are going awry, still doing your great work with the PR business, still with your boyfriend, all these different things you're doing. And people always ask me, so, I want to train, I want to do all these different things, but I don't know where to find the balance
Yeah.
between work, and I want to push myself to the max, but I also know when I do that, I'm gonna be tired.
Yeah.
But clearly it's possible because you've done this. You've done this in a way that's been so successful over the years. What are some things that you've done to be successful at being a rock star on the road and being a rock star also in the office?
Yeah, it's such an important question, and it's hard. It's not easy to have that work life balance at all, and some people have things in their life that it can make it impossible at times. And I think that's always important to acknowledge that, yeah, I get it. It's not possible for everyone at every time. There's like transitions of life where there's like, okay, there's times now where there aren't times now. I have kids, they're super young, that, whatever it is. Um, for me, what's worked is figuring out how I thrive. Um, and I know I thrive, there's certain times in my life where I thrived. I thrived in high school, didn't thrive so much in college, and I'm thriving, and I didn't thrive so much right after college, and I'm thriving now. So it's figuring out like why and what worked then and why is it working now as well. So for me, it's an environment. It's creating an environment around me that's allowing for a little bit of flexibility, support, and a system, like a schedule in a way, which is funny to say flexibility and a system. So in my life now, my boyfriend Mark is super supportive of my running. So what that means for me is he's just like me is giving everything to it. He does the same thing. So he prepares meals to make sure that I don't have to also, cook the meals. I mean, he likes cooking, but he prepares the meals. He'll, make enough rice or fish or whatever it is for the week. We'll go food shopping so the house is stocked because I know, and I know this for a fact, because if he's away on work for a week or something, the refrigerator ends up empty. And then I'm like, oh, I have nothing to eat. And this run was really hard this weekend. I wonder
Right.
why.
Right.
So I've learned, like, I need that. I need almost like that care. And in high school, my mom did that for me. So I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense. Like, this is what works. Like, support of someone that's creating that environment where it's there for me and it's allowing me to thrive. Same thing with flexibility. So, yeah, I work a lot of hours a day, but because I own the business, I work from home. So I have meetings, I have appointments, I have times that I'm working from my computer, but I also have flexibility where I can run, at 11 a.m. or
Mm.
noon. If I have a work thing at 5 a.m., well, I'm going to be running after that or at night. So I just make sure I always get it in. I work it around. I book it. I make it like an appointment that day. So that's allowed me to thrive. It was harder for me in the corporate world, when I had the 8 to 6, because then you can only run before or after. And that was a struggle, I will admit. That didn't work so much for my running life. But
Mm.
this flexibility that I've created really does. And I'm able to take advantage of it and thrive. Now in Florida, it's rains a lot. We're in like rainy hurricane season now. I have a treadmill. I got that for myself because I can't allow, the hurricane outside or the rain or that it's like pitch black to stop me from getting my run in.
Right.
And because I have to get it in, I have that treadmill that I can always get on, whether it's, midday, middle of the night, whatever it is, to make sure there's no excuse for me to miss it. Same thing with weights. If I can't get to my HIIT class that I typically take, twice a week, I'll make sure that I'm getting weights at home.
Got it.
So for me, it's a flexibility with timing, I guess, but never missing what I need to do. Always getting it in, but giving myself leeway so that I can get it in at the times that work. And
Mm.
this year my coach was like, if you can try to get your like runs in at the same time every day, like let's work on that. That would be nice for your schedule. And I'm like, okay, I'll try. But it's not always going to work because,
Right.
I sometimes have appointments or meetings or media things that come first. It is my job.
Right.
That's what's paying the bills, not the running. So I can't say, oh no, sorry, I have to run.
Right.
But I know going into the day that I have to figure it out. And planning helps as well. So I look at my day, my calendar, each day before, and I'm like, all right, so I know tomorrow night I have an event, so I can't run at night. So I'm going to need to make sure that I get this done in the morning or at this time. And really going in knowing that I have to get it done. My priority is getting it done. So figure out where it's going to fit in.
Yeah.
Um, and and again, having a supportive team really helps, because there are times if I have a double where Mark will go to an event and be like, no, 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 you can get your double in. I'll go to the event for us. You get that in. So that, I mean, I can't not give credit to my partner enough, where he'll handle, what needs to be handled so that I can prioritize my run wherever possible, which is really nice. And I know I'm very fortunate for that. And that's not always the case.
Well, shout out to Mark for doing a great job. He's holding it down. And yeah, I mean that's all real talk, right? You're sharing about what it takes, which is it takes a lot, but it also takes a village to get you there, and having a
Yeah.
support system, a support team to do some of the things that you need to get there. And what you also mentioned, what I thought was poignant, is that um, there have been seasons where you have been great and then seasons where you've been okay.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we have to just be okay with that. Even if you are training at your highest peak and you are putting in the work, and even if you have your support system intact, your body might not be at that place to do what you want to do at that given time. And doesn't mean that what you're doing is in vain. Doesn't mean that what you're doing is not enough. It just means that,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, this is just not the time for it to happen. Whether it's work, school, whatever is just in the way, weather, whatever else, family stuff, stress, whatever the case may be, timing is everything. So I
Totally
receive
agree.
that. I receive that myself. And I think, again, giving grace to that. Because putting yourself out there and doing it by itself, I mean, that's the goal. We're not getting paid for this thing. Maybe you will be some point in time the way you've been
Yeah.
going, but
I don't know. that.
Last question, Mel, and this is just because everyone we bring on the show is someone who I believe embodies what Be More Today stands for, and they're being more in their own regard. And your mindset is one that I appreciate, since you and I both ran track at Brown. I know even the last time you mentioned on the show that when you were at Brown, you weren't running your best.
Hmm.
And it's just so amazing to see at this time in this season of your life, as we look back at Brown being, 20 years ago, for both of us,
Woo,
right?
woo.
You were union this year?
Mine was this year. Yeah. I'm
Right.
1 year behind.
Exactly. So the madness that's with that, right? To think 20 years from when we were supposed to be at our peaks for doing certain things, you're now able to go out here and run your best times in your life. What mindset goes with that? And and how do you intend to be any more than you've already been in this year? Because you've already done so many great things, hitting your best times ever. The best times your body has seen has
Yep.
happened this year already. So what's next in store for you? How do you intend to be even more in 2024 moving forward?
Yeah. I just believe I'm not done. I want more for myself. I believe in myself. I'm still having fun with it, most importantly,
Mm,
because you have to show up and do it every day.
yeah.
Uh, I love being a runner. I love the identity of being a marathoner. It makes me selfishly, it makes me feel good. You know, ego wise, I like when people are like, "Oh, she's a marathoner." Like, I like that. It it's the identity that has always defined me. And I lost it for many years when I wasn't doing well. And it was kind of weird because it's like, oh, that's my identity, but no one knows it, or like I'm not really excelling in it. So to find it again at this point in my life um, feels really good. And I want to hold on to it as long as I can. And I want to see how much I can get out of myself. There's a little bit of, I know I'm getting older and I won't improve forever. So while I am improving, I'm going to do everything I can to keep that going. And that includes, pushing myself, but also taking care of myself as you do get more fragile when you get older. So just making sure I'm checking all the boxes and doing everything I can um, it's pretty simple to just see how good I can be and how much I can get out of myself. I mean, I know you mentioned it, there's a little bit of a chip on my shoulder that I believe that I could have done better when I was younger and I didn't, but there's no point of looking back with regret. It's just you're in the now and you're doing it now and let's see what you can get out of yourself. And um I just love it. I love the racing. I remind myself that every time I get nervous when I'm showing up at a race, you choose to do this. And you get to do this. So you better love it and enjoy it. And I do. And yeah, I mean, I race, it hurts, but I race with a smile on my face. And it's fun. And I just, I like achieving. I like seeing, results, and I like, getting there and um putting my mind to something. And running is, I'll always say, is the most beautiful thing that you get out of it, what you put in for the
Mhm.
most part. There are no shortcuts. You can't fake it. And I'm I love that. Like that defines who I am, I think. And I like doing the work. I like when you do the work and you get credit for it and you really get to achieve for doing it. And that's what running is. I mean, there's no better example of, you get out of it what you put in. Um, so I think it's just a really beautiful sport and I love doing it. And looking forward, I mean, the the Olympic trials marathon qualifying time is 2 hours and 37 minutes. It
Mm,
was 2 hours and 30 as of it was for 2020 or 2021. It was 2:45 in 20 so oh no, it was that so it was 2:45 in 2020
mm.
qualifying time. For this year, for 2024, it was 2:37. So they moved it down. a lot of minutes, 8 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So I just did that sub 2:45. So,
Right.
a couple of years late, but it's fine. But the 2:37 is out there,
Mm.
and I'll look at it and I will aim for it. And I don't know if I'll get it because that's kind of fast, and it's a under 6 minute per mile pace. So it would be a challenge, but I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna see how much I can edge towards it. I'm at 2:44 high now. And each time I run, I'll try to chip down a little bit towards it. And that's all I can do. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna work towards.
Amazing. Melissa, we appreciate you so much. Again, congrats on London being the first American finisher, setting your PR again, 2:44. We salute you so much. And for those who are listening, where can they follow you on social media or otherwise?
I'm mainly on Instagram at Mel Runs Fast, so pretty easy. Or on Facebook, just with my regular name, Melissa Perlman.
Amazing. Mel, I appreciate you so much. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. For the second time, you made this show 151 for the books, a big one, a big one. And listen, you called it last year to hit this mark. You hit this mark a year after. Um 237 sound like it's far away, but it might not be the way you've been doing this thing. So we wish you the best with your training continuously, and we will follow your guidance and tutelage for those who are listening to go out there and be more in their own regards, thanks to you. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and it's an honor to be part of 150. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. And folks, listen, she said so many good things. You heard her talking about the training, the diligence, the persistence, the dedication, right? That it takes to get this thing done. Yeah, if you want to get this thing done, you have to go out there and get this thing done. You can do it. There are no limits. And for her to say she wanted to hit this time and the hit of the year later, all I heard was resilience. All I heard was not giving up. All I heard was doing a cycle over and over and over again and learning from each experience to get that thing done. 2:44:57. Come on, man. That's nasty. And for those of you who heard the quote from today, if you're interested, sorry, are you interested or are you committed? If you're interested, you'll do what's convenient. But if you're committed, you do what it takes to make it happen. That's all she's done. She's done what it took to get to her goal, and she's not done. So for those of you who are out there, whether you're talking about marathon training, 5K, 10K, half marathons, or just in life, right? Writing that book, getting that job, doing whatever you want to do, you're not done either. So go out there, put the work in, and just let yourself know, are you interested or are you committed? You know what you have to do if you're committed. So, with that being said, I hope you will continue to be more in 24. Have a great day, have a great night, and we'll see you next time. Peace.